All right, well, we're live. So,
Yes.
Ow.
awesome. So, hey, man, what's up, Brandon? Our guest today is Brandan Fokken, and everybody who follows me is very familiar with him, whether they know it or not, because of this stuff right here. Constantly talking about it and eating jars of it at a time.
There it is.
Dude, this freedom spread, by the way, thank you very much for throwing that in the last order.
Yeah.
My wife was like, babe, did you see the freedom spread? We have to get that. And I was like, I saw that it was coming up, but I just made an order. And then I hit you up and I was like, dude, can I, is there any way to add it in? So thank you very much. It's delicious. Like half the jar is gone already. So,
well, as you see on the front, we encourage that you eat the whole jar. So that's not out of the norm.
do you encourage people to eat like 20 jars? Because I feel like I'm getting up there at this point.
We actually, so no lie, believe it or not, I eat up to a jar or a jar and a half every day, every single day. And we actually, the top female competitive eater basically in the world, Molly, that's her name. When I first launched, she sat down with 15 jars and she ate them in 33 minutes, which is 44,000 calories. And then she said she could have ate more. So I've never seen nothing like that. She beats every single record you can think of out there and absolutely massacres any competition she's in. But 44,000 peanut butter calories in 33 minutes.
Now,
Yep.
I have a couple of questions about that. First and foremost, this is like this is not the trying to make sure I get the monster butter. Is this just regular peanut butter, or is this something that has a blend that she was eating?
So she picked multiple flavors.
Wow.
She didn't do the monster. I didn't have the monster at the time. I started off with 5 flavors, then I went to 7, then 9, then now I'm at 11. I also have the Freedom Spread, which I launched last year, limited, and then I pulled it back. So I relaunched it again, and I've actually got 5 more flavors that are done, which I'll be launching soon. I haven't been in a hurry for it. And I think she did like brownie, cookie dough, cookies and cream. So, I mean, she did those, but she didn't do the monster.
Mm. Man.
Fair. I would have. Now, did she compete in the hot dog eating contest?
So long story. When you're in those leagues and you sign with somebody, they essentially own you. You can't go compete where you want, and she competes. If you look her up, man, she's a beast.
So she's not in the IFOCE, the International Federation of Competitive Eating?
No, but she goes out. She ate like 390 McNuggets. She ate like 600 shrimp. She holds tons of world records, right?
Wow.
And she does them consistently, like weekly. She's breaking some record. But if she signs, then she's owned by them, and she can't go out and compete and make money elsewhere. And that's where she makes a lot of her money. She travels all over, and she goes and does these huge. I mean, she'll go to Walmart and she'll see something on sale like frosting, and she'll buy like 25 frostings and eat all of them. I mean, she's absolutely insane with the stuff that she does. And I hate to say this about her because she's so awesome. You'll see people that know how to market themselves online, and they know how to get their product out there, who they are and everything else. And that's something I think she legged on initially. So nobody really knew who she was if you were outside of eating circles. And then there's some people out there that do these crazy mukbangs and all this stuff, on YouTube. And, they've got millions of followers. Whereas she's completely killing these guys. But she just is now kind of catching on how to really get her brand out there. And I'm excited to see her grow.
I saw a video of somebody eating mayonnaise jars recently. That's her. Is that her? Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Well, she's real skinny, blonde hair, usually kind of spiked up, kind of looks a little punkish a little bit. Sweetest girl you'll ever meet. Seriously, she's so nice, very down to earth.
So from a health standpoint, and I'm curious on your take. Do you coach her as far as how to do it, but also not die?
Something like that, unless you do things like that, you really can't coach that stuff. As far as from an athletic performance standpoint. Now, if you were to talk to, because I know a lot of competitive eaters. Another buddy of mine is Bartley Weaver. He was the Tennessee Titans mascot. He was on the Titan games. and he's a big hulking human being, and he's one of the top eaters, you know, in the country too. A lot of it, some people, you know, just realize they have a talent for eating. I would dare to say, and I hate to say this, a lot of the people that eat, a lot of them starting out with eating disorders. You know, Furious Pete, good friend of mine, same thing. You know, he basically starved himself to death, but a lot of those people binge and purge and binge and purge, and they're used to filling their stomachs out and then throwing it up. You know, and is it healthy? I mean, what do you think? You know, I mean, you take in 40,000, 50,000 calories of processed food or whatever. I mean, it's going to take its toll somewhere. You know, I mean, your internal organs and just all that stuff, the sodium and just, I don't even want to know what's going on in your body.
I mean, the body can only assimilate so much, and then it either, you know, stores or excretes, right? And of course, and it seems like, you know, like I follow the like Matt Stoney, the Megatoad, and he's made a great career out of major league eating. Joey Chestnut doesn't do as much, but these guys, I'm sure you only do this so often, because I feel like the more you do it, you can only come back so many times before you start to have long-term effects from it. But it's interesting also to hear, you know, from your perspective, that you're eating a whole jar of peanut butter. It makes me think of the late great Rich Piana, who was eating the whole tub of what was that, Ben and Jerry's ice cream every single night. And of course,
but he was eating the smaller ones. He was eating 2 to 3 of those. You know what I mean? And a lot of those guys do it for calories. The thing with me is, a lot of times, you know, I don't try necessarily to eat a jar of peanut butter, but I also intermittent fast, right? And I do well with really high fat. Of course, like, you know, I've been in the fitness industry a long time, and I'm never going to tell somebody to eat a jar of peanut butter, a half jar or whatever. I just eat a lot of peanut butter. And, you know, I don't gain weight. I know where my you know, I probably burn 5,000 calories a day, you know, so for me to eat 2,500 calories of peanut butter, again, I'm a nutritionist too. Like, I'm not going to agree with that or tell you to do that, but that's what I like to eat. Now, if I were getting ready for a photo shoot or competition or whatever, of course I'm not doing that. I actually pull my fats way back and I pull my carbs back. I eat a lot more protein, and I do it that way. But what I'm doing is it healthy? I'm not going to say it's healthy either, but it's what I like to eat. It could be much worse. I don't eat fast food. I don't eat candy. I don't drink soda. You know, the products that I make, I don't, for instance, like Monster Cookie. Like, I don't eat a thing of Monster Cookie. You know, I'll likely eat like white chocolate or something. You know, it's a lower calorie, lower sugar spread. You know, you're not going to see me eat cookies and cream. Again, that's more processed. It's got more calories in it. And believe it or not, crunchy is my favorite spread above all. Like, I love my crunchy spread. Yeah. So that's what I'll usually eat throughout the time that I'm eating. I'll put half a jar, like, on a big bowl of oatmeal. And then as I'm watching Netflix or something, I just grab a spoon and I tend to eat the rest. So that's how I do it.
Brandan, I'm curious, prior to you producing your own peanut butter, were you eating it this regularly?
Yeah. Yep. So if you look at my story on FokkenNuts.com, my background, you know, I came from a real tough upbringing. My parents weren't around, very poor. My mom, she's bipolar. She was married 7 times. There's times where we'd be moved from house to house to house. We didn't have food. We didn't have, sometimes our power would be turned off. We didn't have a TV. We didn't have a phone. We didn't have a car. My grandparents tried to shelter me from that. And when I'd be at my grandparents, my grandmother was always making me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So as a child, man, like, that was my thing. You know, I would go from not having anything at my house to having peanut butter and jelly at grandma's house. So it's something that is nostalgic for me, always stuck with me. And then as I became an athlete, I didn't start competing in physique competitions or bodybuilding until I was 30. And at that time, I guess I got in at the right time where anybody could market themselves to be somebody online. You know, and I've seen so many people like a Bradley Martin or somebody like that went from no followers to millions of followers. And they just knew how to brand themselves right. For myself, I just posted things I wanted and got involved in. I was good at networking. So as I did that and grew, and, you know, I won the Bodybuilding Icon Spokesmodel contest. I won the Muscle and Fitness Male Model contest. Stuff like that started to happen. I started to grow a following. And that's where sponsorship started to come on. And all the way through my 20s, I ate a ton of peanut butter. As I started to compete, I cleaned up my diet so much that things like peanut butter were kind of my go-to bad food, so to speak, as opposed to going and getting Burger King or McDonald's and, stuff like that. I stopped eating fast food. That was kind of my cheat meal, so to speak. And I got my first peanut butter sponsorship with Nuts and More when they first started. And great group of guys. So I was there at the very beginning with them. And then after about, I would say, a year with them, I split off into another company. And then from there, I just realized that lots of companies would send me samples, just to post about it. So every company out there I've tried or liked. I mean, there was times where I would have 60 jars of peanut butter from different companies in my cupboard. And yeah, I was eating like that too. My wife she's always been on me, man. She's like, you eat way too much peanut butter, but that's what I like to eat, so it is what it is. And so when I created the brand, it was something that was years in the making. 2 years prior, I said I was going to start a brand, but I didn't know how. And then last year, I basically, for my New Year's resolution, I said I'm going to create a peanut butter brand. Had no clue what I was doing at all, and I got to work. And then April 1st of 2019, I launched the brand.
So what was step one? Because I think a reason I asked that is because there's a lot of our listeners who do have ideas. They want to start something. They don't know where to go. I'm curious for you, what was step one to get it going?
So you have to look at it like this. There's multiple ways to start a brand such as a peanut butter brand, right? You can make it yourself, which a lot of brands do, or you can find somebody else to make your product and do it that way. So for me, I'm a corporate guy. Like, I have a corporate job. Then on top of it, I own a training business in person. I own it online. I was an athlete for companies. I'm a father. Like, I'm into a lot of stuff. And I didn't necessarily have the time to manufacture it myself. Or I guess, was I willing at the time to put $1 million or more down on equipment and the building and everything else? So I wanted to be smarter with it. So I started doing a search countrywide on companies that can make what I wanted. And I found somebody on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And I sat and went back and forth, positives, negatives, and I just really meshed with the company that was on the East Side. And with them, I could be creative. It was a family feel. They're a candy company, actually. And, they were able to really come up with stuff that I wanted. We got the first 5 together, the first flavors. And from there, sky was the limit. I can literally throw anything I want at them. I can, come up with my base. I can come up with the ingredients and the name and everything else, and they're a go. In between all of that, I had to get a logo made. And what I did is I did a contest for that. I went online and did one of those online contests, and that's how I got my logo. From there, I went on Fiverr, and I hired people out of Pakistan that make my labels. And every time I come up with a new flavor, I go back to them and I tell them kind of what I want. It usually takes 5 or 6 tries. We get that down. I hired an IT professional. He runs my website and everything like that. All the marketing, all of that stuff, I did. So really, I had an IT guy, I had myself, and I had a plant making the products that I wanted. And from there, I was able to launch. The first month was hell because I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't used to customer service, and it's kind of like a server bringing out food that the cook messed up, and they're pissed at the server, right? So constantly, I'm on the opposite end where UPS or USPS is messing up orders and they're breaking things and they're not showing up, and I have to account for that. And especially in today's time, man, it's terrible, like terrible. I mean, stuff's taking 5 times longer. They're losing stuff. I had a box show up to somebody's birthday that it was actually live streamed in front of their family, where they opened it up and had auto parts in the frickin' box, which is no possible way. So they opened it, put auto parts in my box, sealed it up, and sent it forward. But in all that process, you learn the ropes. You learn what works, what doesn't work. It was systematic how I did it, and it becomes easier after that. And I did that for over a year. I found ways to market the company cheaply. And what I found was I just sent product to people. I never asked for anything like, I've sent you product. I don't ask you to post anything. I don't ask for that. I've had a ton of huge influencers, famous people, athletes, all post us, which is great, but I don't ask for that. That's not what my brand is about. My brand is, if I send it to you, I'm sharing something that is important to me that I value and I like. And I'm sending it to you because in some realm of something, I appreciate you as a person. And I want to share that with you. Now, if you like it enough to share it, that's great. I love that. unfortunately, we're just not in a position to spend, 20 grand on having some influencer go out and post and market us. It's just not how we do things. So, so after we got the marketing together on how I decided I wanted to do things, then the brand took off. So kind of a long answer to that, but.
I think that's really valuable. And Brandon, one of the things that stood out to me that I think might slip by a lot of listeners and could be really valuable to them, and even just a nice reminder for me, you said that your behavior of sending product out with the intention of not expecting anything in return, that was part of your brand. So that's mindset and behavior, but you describe those two things as part of your brand, perhaps personally, but definitely the brand of the peanut butter company. And I think too many people, when they talk about the word brand, many people just say like, oh, that's the logo, or that's the product. But brand really comes down to like feelings and culture and these more human elements. And I think a lot of people can take from that in expanding their perception of what their thing can stand for, whether it's their band or their photography practice, or whatever, they're an accountant. The ways that we engage with the world, our beliefs, our mission, the ways that we interact with people, like these are the things that end up making the perception of our brand. It's how people respond to us. So I think, is that intuitive for you? You said like you network well, you kind of know what to do. But I'm curious if this is intuitive, but also if these are things that you study.
So, we could be on here for hours talking about this stuff. I'm a big quote guy too. They say that people forget, what you say and what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel, which I think is true, right? I believe in being a good person because I'm a good person and because I care about people. Even if people aren't good to me, I'm still good to them. And as a brand, you have so many people out there that we're going to take over and we're going to be this. We're the best out there, right? Well, I'm not here to take over. I'm here to make a great product that people like to share and have fun along the way. That's what this is. And I truly believe that with that I can be a brand that really stands out and makes an impact. I know I have different marketing. I know I have a different product than anybody out there. When they had the XFL come out there, for instance, people are like, well, how's it going to compete with the NFL? Well, it didn't need to compete. It was a completely different entity. And obviously, The Rock just picked it up, right? They only needed 1% of the NFL's overall network to survive and make it and to be profitable. 1%, because the NFL's that big. It's the same thing with me. I don't need to come take over Marcus. I don't need to be the next Jiffy or Skippy. I just need to be my company and make products that I love that people like. And we've grown month after month by doing that.
I love that you said that you only had to, garner a certain section of the market, right? I think a lot of people get really overwhelmed when they realize how saturated the market is that they're in, right?
Yep.
Plenty of people have a background and they look around and they say, yeah, but there's millions of people doing the same thing. Some people may be ignorant to the peanut butter industry, right? But you go to any grocery store or you even go to a Target, a Walmart, et cetera, and you see the heavy hitters, right? You see the Skippies, you see the Jif, you see Peter Pan, et cetera. In my head, and I was glad you brought up Nuts and More because I had forgotten about the power that was Nuts and More and the corner of the market that they went after. Of course, they had their own kind of demographic that they were cornering. You said that you had this nostalgia towards peanut butter and jelly, and that made me think of Peanut Butter and Company. And I remember the foreword to the book, and they talked about, the Jerry Seinfeld wrote, and then in the book itself, the guy was talking about the nostalgia of his mom making the peanut butter and jelly. Yeah. And what was awesome about the company was, although it was an oversaturated market, in his head, the guy who started it, he knew his why. So he ran with it, and of course it turned into something that was on shelves everywhere. I think he had a store in New York, et cetera. I was curious, but you kind of already dropped it on us, but I'd love you to even elaborate a bit more on that. When you start to think about, I love peanut butter, I'm eating a jar of peanut butter a day, I've got companies like Nuts and More sending me peanut butter. When you decide I'm going to get into the peanut butter game, what kind of thoughts are you having knowing what the market is like? Or is it something that you just said, I love it, I'll figure it out?
As far as that goes, so as a fitness expert, right? Like I've trained the upper echelon of society. You know, I've worked with billionaires and I've flown around on jets all over the place, right? Like, and you don't see me post stuff like that because that's not what I portray. I mean, if you guys look at my social media, you see memes and stuff, right? But I've always, I guess, been lucky in that I've gotten all of this information just by being present. And I've been able to sit with people that have found success. And I've always found ways to network and find out my own through a lot of their examples, right? And it's funny because I was actually training a gentleman. He owned a company called Bakery Barn. And Bakery Barn made all the protein bars basically for the fitness industry, right? And we were sitting down. He goes, what would you do right now if you could do anything? And this was October of 2018. And I said, well, I'd start a peanut butter company. I said, but man, I said it, and I said these exact words. I said, it's so saturated right now. And he smiled. So, you know, the Fit Crunch bar, Robert Irvine's Fit Crunch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so they're one of the top bars, you know, in the world. And he goes, how many bars do you think are out there right now? And he goes, hundreds. And he goes, but here I am worth hundreds of millions of dollars with a bar that hasn't even been out that long and other bars that are gaining way in the industry. And he said, if you love what you do, you're an expert at what you do, you truly are compassionate with the people that come to you, your customers, and you put yourself into it, that's what's going to sell it, you know, beyond the competition of having another 100 to 200 brands out there. Because, I mean, they're popping up every day. And I took that to heart. And I said, I guess you're right. So when I started it, I'll be honest, man, like I didn't know what to expect. I wanted to sell out the first batch that I made so badly. And I was so worried I wasn't going to do it. And literally like 3 days later, I sold out of everything. And I didn't expect that. I wasn't prepared for that. So that was the next thing, like, here's success. Like right out of the gate, I never expected that. But what people were buying was me. They weren't buying the product. They didn't know what the product tasted like. They were buying me. And it's the same thing I tell people in training. Like, I've got a shelf with 15 different degrees and certifications sitting next to me. And I tell other trainers, that's not why people hire me. They hire me because of how I treat people, because of the relationships that I board, the fact that I've listened to them and I care about them and I produce results. That's what they hire me for. And it's the same thing when it comes to the peanut butter. Like, when I started to market on Facebook, it was different because I was marketing through my peanut butter entity on there. People didn't know me. So what I found was when I did that, which was the first time I started doing that in June, I started doing actual paid advertising. I had never done that. I was getting a completely different clientele that didn't know me, that didn't know my story. I found that people complained more if shipping took longer. Like all of these things I had never dealt with in a year of being in business popped up because they didn't know me. The people that know me, I don't hear any of those things from. But the people that don't, it's a completely different customer and clientele that I get outside of what I get, to my story and who I am. And now that we're where we're at, like, I think that being confident is a good thing. But I think that if you're too comfortable and too confident, it's easy to miss steps, to miss opportunity because we're so comfortable in what we're doing. And so I'm always uncomfortable. I always have in the back of my head that we're going to fail or something's not going to work or whatever. Because I struggled as a child, I always have that mentality. So I'm always willing to work. I'm always willing to be better. I'm always willing to, send out product to that person that's pissed off online because USPS, messed up their package or whatever. I'm always willing to go the extra mile because I fear that failure. And unfortunately, you see too many businesses out there that don't care. They don't care if they lose you as a customer. Like when I hired a marketing team, they came out with some videos and stuff I didn't like because people were making negative comments about them. I said, I don't like this stuff. Well, but it's performing at, 4 times ROI. I'm like, but I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if it's making me money. The fact is if you just put something out there that is not representation of my brand and me, and when you do that, and I lose a customer, I've lost that customer forever. It needs to be within the realm of what I want it to be. Otherwise, it's not my company anymore, and that uncomfortableness is what I think has also helped us propel to where we're at. If that makes sense.
Yeah, good for you, man. I think that mentality builds long-term success. There's an integrity to it. I'm curious, when you started targeting on Facebook, for instance, and you're reaching a new market, and there isn't that brand equity that others have built up just knowing you and your personal story, did that, I guess, in what ways did you respond to that from a messaging standpoint? Did you start thinking of how can I make the brand more personal? How can I introduce more of who I am and my values into the messaging to people that don't know me and are just finding me on Instagram or Facebook, for instance?
I paid attention. I paid attention to all the negative thoughts. Like, for instance, the first video that I had made, you know, two things. People kept saying that everything was too oily, right? And as a natural product, oil separates or whatever, but my products are natural products. And the other part was like, this person was making a sandwich and they were spraying honey basically all over the place. And that turned people off. They didn't like that. So what I did is I took note and I had the videos re-edited. I changed things. And then when I relaunched new videos, I was very conscious of how people viewed everything. The new videos had to show my vision as opposed to the people that I hired that put it within their vision and what they thought would perform. Even if my new videos I think they're better videos, if they don't perform as well, I'm okay with that because I'm not getting the same hate or negative comments I was getting before. And that's another learning experience, man. Like, I hired this marketing team that was supposed to be the best, and I lost $30,000 in the process. You know, that's a learning experience. And that's because they only cared about numbers and, you know, ad spend and everything else, but they never looked at profitability and this, that, whatever. They actually went through and they screwed up my whole shipping system and then tried to pass the buck and say that they had nothing to do with it. I'm like, guys, like, you guys switched me from one platform to another. You were responsible for my shipping because I paid you for that. And in the process, I literally lost 30 grand over the course of 2 months. Now I'm in a position I can absorb that or whatever, but it's a learning experience. So somebody getting into business, that's the other thing. You need to really make sure that you're, you know, bringing in people that are truly out for you, you know, that are going to help you, that you can go and talk to 10 people about their past, you know, performance and make sure that they align and they can perform the way that you want them to. And that they're going to be agreeable with your vision, you know, because these guys weren't. I got a new team now, kind of in the middle of before I go with somebody new. That does that. They listen to what I say. They take what I want into context. And if you want your brand to speak for you, that's important. Because if you just hand it over to somebody, the vision isn't yours anymore. And like I said, I lost money hiring the wrong people, you know?
Yeah, I remember when that happened, I messaged you about it because I had signed up for the subscription service. And I know that was part of the platform change. You know, I was like, hey, dude, I signed up for the subscription, but I'm not sure it's working. You're like, yeah, they totally fucked me. And, you know, it's a big kind of big deal that you're working through right now. But it seems like you solved it. And you know, it's a huge thing that I think a lot of people that start businesses go through. I remember when I first started a long time ago, the music education business that I had, the first website, the first, you know, pitch decks that I put together and had made were all through this big design firm, right? It had the glitz, it had the, you know, the shiny stuff that I was attracted to. You know, they sold me a good story, and then they took, I think it was like $20,000 or $30,000 of my money and built me a landing page that didn't do shit. And I learned a hard lesson through that. You know, we lost money. It didn't produce or perform for us well. But it was one of the most valuable things. It was like paying for a year worth of college tuition just in that experience alone, because I learned, first off, you know, you can do a shit ton of this yourself and nobody's going to do it better than you. And then secondly, to your point, you have to align yourself with people that actually get it and they understand what you're trying to do. And, you know, you got to be honest with them too at that point about like what kind of budget you have, what you need to work with, what the whole strategy is as the big picture, and where they might fit into it, whoever the service provider or the vendor may be. It was an incredibly important learning experience. So it's good that you, from a business perspective, have gone through that, because I bet you now, and I'm sure you're already doing this, you're not going to be so quick to kind of go with somebody like that from now on.
No, I was protected before, because it was mine, and I'm even more protected now. And I watch numbers harder, and I'm constantly on my guy's back. And he's one of my close friends, my little brother, and he's like a savant when it comes to numbers. So I trust him, and he's been doing great. Whether we keep him in that position or not, we'll have that discussion. But he's doing well, and again, the brand is rebounding from that chaos that we went through. But that's the thing, with anything, man, like you can't put all your eggs in one basket. We had the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic in March, and it was canceled the day before. I lost $20,000 on that. Right. Brands don't prepare for those things often. I mean, that's the end of a brand right there. And
especially in the beginning. Especially in the beginning, yeah.
So in the beginning, that's why for over a year, I did everything myself. I don't pay myself. I don't take anything out of it. I was able to absorb, essentially 50K so far in loss and still stay ahead because I was smart, and as a new brand, a lot of brands couldn't do that. So you got to really be mindful of where your money's at, where it's going, what you're investing in. People are like, well, I want to go all out now. Well, I wanted to create brand recognition first. I was lucky to get in with a lot of great people that helped propel our brand forward and make a lot of great connections. And I'm in a spot now where, we've been right on the verge, I think, of a lot of exciting things. We were talking to Shark Tank for a little bit, and I got cut from that from the last minute. But I'm working with some brokers now, and that's another thing. When you get into grocery stores, working with brokers, we had one brokerage company wanting $20,000 a month up front to get us into grocery stores. Well, here I am now with a guy that can get me into all the same stores that wants $700 a month to do all the work, and then after 6 months he gets a percentage. I'm okay with that. Let's do that. I'm also going to be on a conversation with a lady this week to get us on QVC and the Home Shopping Network. So that's the thing too. Again, I'm doing this all by myself. Those outlets are there. That's the thing that people think is I can't do this or I can't do that or whatever. Well, why am I any different than you? Peanut butter wasn't exactly my first choice in life. Like it was something that I just enjoyed, and I turned it into a company and a profession. And it's something that I do on the side. So if you make frickin' pillows, or if you sell baseball hats or shirts, or you make great Rice Krispie treats or what, I mean, that's all business. All of it. You can turn it into something.
Well, and that's the thing that I wanted to bring up. I mean, there's a long game aspect to it with you and with any business that any one person wants to start. If they're in love with what they're doing at the core, if it's a true passion project. And it's obvious to me, but just based on your story, that, peanut butter has been a big part of your life. It's helped you, I would imagine, to have success in the fitness world because it's something that's helped build your physique, on a day-to-day basis. But, it's important to think about that long game. And even now, as you're making decisions going forward, or as anybody in your position is making decisions going forward, like there's no rush because, and I've said this before, if you love it, then why would you try to rush to a finish line of sorts? If you love doing it, then like do it for the next 30, 40 years and then see where you're at that point. And you mentioned before this thing about sharing, you like to share with what you do. And it's so interesting because I feel that way about certain things in my life, right? I like to share music. Like when I hear a new song that I like to play it for my friends and share it with them. If, in this case, food, I love to share food. I love to talk about coffee and different things that I like to, to eat or consume. But since I discovered this brand of yours, it's been very organic, very easy for me to want to share it because I almost feel like, I get points when I post it out there and people are like, yeah, he's right. Matt's right. This shit is really fucking good. And it's like a point of pride. And I don't think it's like, because, I found this early and I'm an early customer. It's not even about that. It's just like, I want people to experience what I experience when I eat this stuff and I enjoy it. And I think what's beautiful is that comes from you too, whether that's on purpose or not, you know, or by design, I can't say, but it's interesting to me that that's your mentality, and the people that you are able to get your product into the hands of are also, you know, of that mindset. And it's so interesting, man. Like I had an extra jar of the snozzberry honey, and we went over our neighbors for dinner last night, and they have a little 4-year-old, or I'm sorry, a 3-year-old, and the mom's like super into fitness, and she had never heard of you guys. So I brought her the extra jar, and I was like, if you like peanut butter, and she was like, I love peanut butter. I was like, here you go. You got to have this. Let me know what you think of it. And it's just, it feels good to be able to do that and do it with something that I have no doubt about whether it's going to be good or not, or they're going to have a good experience, you know? And that's just so important. I mean, I don't want to, look, you can't give it away for free to everybody in the world. But that is one of the great things about the choice a customer can make, right? Yeah. And not to keep going on this, but like, I can't tell you how many friends I've had over the house who have like been here, and I know they like food, and I'm like, oh yeah, here, by the way, here's 5 spoons for 5 different jars. You got to try this, you know? And
yeah, those people hit me up online, by the way. So
good. That's awesome.
You got a great group of, you know, loyal friends, and they carry the same energy as you do. And that's the other part of it. My love language is I'm a gift giver. Like, I give to people, right? Yeah. And when I meet people, that's the other cool thing, is I meet people from all walks of life. Like, you and I likely would have never met each other ever if it wasn't for that brand, right? And then what happens is then I start conversing with you. We start talking, and here I am, like, I'm literally developing a flavor based on what you said I should do. Yeah. You know, so I'm doing a bagel, an everything bagel flavor, which I'm pretty close to. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't wait.
Based on you know what you said, and that's the cool thing about having a brand too. I can do whatever I want, and if people don't like it, oh well, you know. But
and I love the fact that I can actually have that direct, you know, open conversation with you and feel comfortable enough to say, hey man, here's this idea. Like, you know what's funny, just to segue, I don't know if you remember this movie from way back in the day. There was a movie called Little Monsters. You ever see that with Fred Savage and Ben Savage? Yep. So in that movie, Fred Savage likes to eat peanut butter and onion sandwiches. Yep. And as a kid, when I saw that, I was like, I got to try that. I got to try that. And then I fell in love with peanut butter and onion flavor, which then leads me to then, you know, getting everything bagels or onion bagels or garlic bagels and smearing peanut butter on it. So that's where it all comes from. And it's just been something that I haven't seen other brands do. So the fact that I have the ability to directly have a conversation and say, hey man, try this. And you're willing to go, okay. Yeah. I mean, you don't really get that with other brands. And I hope I'm not opening up Pandora's box where you're going to have like 1 million people hitting you up like, you know, hey, make this, make that. But that's great.
They do that though. People will make suggestions all the time. Yeah. And I'll be honest, there's flavors that because I've had them from other companies, I know work or don't work. Yeah. You know, one flavor I've had a hard time because I do everything. I don't put artificial preservatives and flavors and stuff. Granted, Monster Cookie has M&Ms in it, plain and simple. Cookies and Cream has Oreo cookie, chocolate bits in it. But everything else, I mean, I'm vegan for the most part. I'm all natural for the most part. So I'm careful about what goes into it. So like birthday cake, I've tried forever, and I just can't get anything I want right. I will say, I was telling Nuts and More the other day, because I still talk to those guys. They sent me some. Their birthday cake is on point, right? It's on point. It's great. But the way they make theirs is just different than how I make mine. You know, that's what makes me special and unique, and that's what makes them special and unique. But people will tell me, like, red velvet is one everybody wants. But it's one that it's not a flavor that I like, and it's not one that I think would do really well, to be honest. The other one that people have wanted is the salted caramel pretzel. And I have tried and tried and tried.
You know what's funny though, dude? So I think I told you this. My wife loves it. It's like one of her favorite flavors. And I guess that's the thing. I mean, it's like you have to love it. Yes. You know, it can't just be something that like your customers say they want. And I'm not saying, well, let me put it this way. it's obvious to me that what's important to you is that you love the products and the message you're putting out there. So I get it. You need to love it. That being said, yeah, absolutely. But that being said, that is a pretty damn good flavor. But you know, it's funny if you said to me, would you rather have that or would you rather have, you know, Monster Cookie, for example? I choose Monster Cookie all day, and that's just my personal preference, and I'm sure it's yours too. You know,
well, Monster Cookie. So actually, I made that for a girl named Chelsea Huska. Chelsea DeBoer is her name now. So she was on Team Mom, and she lived back from where I'm from. She was going to be part of the company. She's been a great influencer for us. If you want to talk about marketing power, when this girl says she likes something, I've never, out of any famous person, athlete, anybody, seen the influence that this girl has. She literally will post a story holding something and say, I like this. The last time she did that, I had almost $40,000 in sales in one day from her.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And you know how much peanut butter that is? Like, so anyway, the Monster Cookie came about because that was a flavor she said that we should do. And that one I got on my first try. Normally it takes me like 5, 6 versions. Like you've had my s'mores, right?
Yeah.
So s'mores was very different because it's so chunky. People are like, well, I'd like it to be more creamy, and you put like, but that's how I wanted it. That's how I wanted it. And we have people that love it, and some people don't. Monster Cookie, the very first try, I was like, this is perfect. Same thing with the Snosberry and the Bees Nuts. Same thing. First try, perfect. So, but
all my favorite flavors right there.
The chocolate or the white chocolate pretzel, though, I'll go back to it, but I was just, after I sent you flavors, I actually tried a whole nother round, and I'm just like, I got to come back to it because I was burnt out already. I'd already tried like 8 versions of it, and it just wasn't working. It'd be easier. My plant's in Albany, New York,
right?
And with not being able to travel, I've got to say, this is what I want. And then it shows up, and then I try it, and then I think about it, and then I'm like, okay, now let's try this. Let's take this out. Then they send that, then I try it. If I could just fly up there, it would be easier, you know? So that's made it hard since March that I'm just trying to do things without. But we do have toasted coconut almond coming out, which is amazing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Salt or sea salt almond, and then I have almond joy coming out. So those 3 flavors, and then bagel. I'm going to try to get bagel. That one I think just needs more garlic and onion flavor to it. The salt is on point, but I'm pretty close to that one.
Cool.
And I don't know how it's going to be, but the next rendition, I'll send you some of that one.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. As far as look, again, I'm not you and I'm not all the customers, but as far as I'm concerned, put as much garlic and onion in that thing as you want. I told
you, by the way, I said you could name that one too.
Yeah.
So you're going to name the flavor, whatever you want.
Okay. All right. I'm still thinking through it, but I got some good ideas.
I love that through this channel, you know, the two of you connecting through peanut butter. Matt now has, I feel like, Matt, you're fleshing out some really deep rooted things inside of you. You know, the guy who loves the food, the guy who every town you're in is always showing someone else like, oh, you got to check this out, see this. Of course, you find something you love, you show people, hey, you got to check this out. And now you actually have a platform to give someone, hey, I've got ideas. And now it's going to come to fruition. I mean, what a gift. What a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's awesome. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, other guys that, you know, a lot of bands have hit me up. And, you know, again, just knowing celebrities and singers and stuff like that, you know, for the most part, I'll always offer to supply like a tour bus, right? And again, it's under the same premise of, you know, if you shout us out, great. If you don't, whatever. But for me, just like you handing that to somebody, whatever, being behind it, for me, it's like my own internal happiness knowing like my product is on so-and-so's bus. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, like it's great to know those things. Like I did one for Gerard Butler for his 50th birthday, and it was called "This Is 50" spread instead of "This Is Sparta." No, This Is 50 instead of "This Is Sparta," and then it had a picture of him, you know, dressed like him from 300, and then we called it Gerard Butter instead of peanut butter. But you know, that's something I never posted. It's nothing that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to share that. It was just kind of a cool thing between us. this week I had a box dropped off literally into The Rock's hands. You know, like, I'm a big fan of The Rock. I don't need The Rock to post that, but that's something that I now have between he and I that I think is just cool for me. You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about you the other day. I was listening to Two Bears, One Cave with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, and they were trying what's it called? Something in Fog, the company. It's like a peanut butter company, Fig and Fog, or I can't remember the name.
Yep.
Okay, something like that. And they were trying it, and they were talking about the different flavors, and they were mixing and matching, like, try this one, then try this one, and put this one on the spoon. And I tried to shout out on Twitter to get them to, like, pay attention, but I don't know if you can get their contact information, but, man, send some stuff out to them, have them try it. In fact, you know what? Actually, Bert Kreischer, on his Instagram, posts his P.O. box, and he asks for people to send him stuff to unbox, and he'll unbox it, and he'll try it. So if you can get stuff over there, those two guys love to eat. They love to talk about food. I have no doubt they would absolutely love the product.
Hopefully they've got the PO box. I sent you that video of Portnoy. I had sent some to him, and he was hilarious. He was like, Fokken Nuts, like, just funny how he said it. And then he's like, I feel like anything from South Dakota or North Dakota is fucking good. And I'm like, hell yeah, like.
That's
like
what's
that.
up.
So,
yeah.
But you just never know, man. I mean, you can send something out without a second thought, and before you know it, they put it out somewhere or share it with somebody, and you get a phone call. Or, I mean, it's pretty crazy, again, how something like peanut butter connects people, and it's non-threatening because, I'm not trying to gain anything out of anybody that I connect with. It's just cool meeting people, and, I'm a big fan of people. I'm a big fan of whether you're a musician or an actor or a stay-at-home mom. Like, people's lives are interesting, and having that ability, that kind of bridge to bring people together is cool, So,
Brandon, I think you touched on something really primitive as human beings. We are all consumers. Most people are going to consume peanut butter throughout their year. But what you're talking about is like the choice of a consumer to feel connected to something, right? So maybe the GIF, for instance, maybe their marketing resonates with a particular customer, or maybe just the pricing or the convenience of where it's available. That's what's most important to them. But no matter what we experience, whether it's a song or peanut butter or toilet paper or I don't know, fucking like a window in the home. Like, these are things that we all consume, we all use. And it's really just like, there can be a story about any of these things. There can be a connection point with any of these things for us. It sounds like you are building community literally around peanut butter. And for a lot of people, that's highly attractive to them.
Yeah. We try to find fun ways to connect with people. Again, I do all the customer service also, which is mind-blowing at some point, but I get that personal connection with people, and then they're surprised to hear it's from me, because I care, and, we try to resolve and fix issues. The other part is trying to find other ways to connect, like little thoughtful items. Like, if you get a package from me, I send out wooden spoons, right, with my logo on it. Now, actually, starting tomorrow, I had Fokken Nuts masks made. So it's got our logo on it and everything that I'm just going to give away. Doing a little bit extra, sometimes, or sending an extra jar to somebody, for no reason, or, I'll find people I'm a big fan of kids, especially disabled children. And I'll see somebody with a child that's having some issues or problems, and I'll hit them up and say, hey, I'd love to send your family, I ask first if they eat peanut butter or whatever. And I'm like, I'd love to send your family some peanut butter. And I tell you what, man, seeing some of those kids light up, trying our product and everything, that's the most satisfactory thing that I get is people showing love, showing excitement and enjoyment, whether they're that child or an adult or whatever, and then they tell me about it. You can't even explain, how good it feels to hear that. Something that you created impacted somebody in a positive way. And that's great.
And I love the extra aspect of it too. That's something that I think all of us try to do in our respective areas of expertise. It's been a part of my mentality for a long time. It's like, somebody recently purchased some gear from me that I sent off, and I can't just put that one piece of gear in the box and send it. I don't feel right about it. I'm throwing in a t-shirt, I'm throwing in an extra brick of drumsticks, I'm throwing in a signed drum head, I'm throwing in whatever stuff I can, because to me it's just a thing sitting around my house, but to that person it's like the extra mile. And it just, you're right, it like means the world to just have that extra thing. And I feel that way when I receive something from somebody. Like when I got this most recent shipment, the fact that you threw in this extra jar is like, it just feels great. And maybe it's easy for you, and it's all good, no big deal. But for me, it's like, man, this dude really cares. And that means a lot. That's the relationship builder right there.
The unfortunate thing is with all this, obviously that costs me money, right?
Sure.
I mean, every time I send something free, that's out of my pocket.
Absolutely.
Every single. And I'll be honest, they always say nobody became poor by giving. Well, in business, you sure as heck can,
Yeah.
And that's sometimes at fault is I give away too much. I give a ton to charities, stuff like that, but people I see online, people that hit me up, almost to the point where, once you own something like a food company, man, they come out of the woodworks. And I'll have contests, and people have entered every single contest I've ever had for a year and a half. And then when they finally win, I'm so excited to try this or whatever. In a year and a half, you've joined every contest, but you never supported my brand. That's the thing. People always want something, but you don't want to support them. And that sometimes is a big letdown. Even though I'm still giving, I'll never stop that. It's a letdown because I'm doing something out of kindness. I don't have to give anything away. I want to impact somebody in a positive way. But for the most part, a lot of people are there for a freebie and or want to ask you for a freebie or, they want something for nothing. And again, I'm wise to that. I'm very wise to that.
Yeah.
And still more often than not, I still give. Plain and simple. But I choose that. I still choose that.
But that's huge. That's huge on your part. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it makes me think of something that's a very important statement for people to hear, which is you can't have expectations of anybody else. And maybe it's because other people are just, they're looking for a freebie or they're shitty, or maybe they have other shit going on right now, or maybe they just, who knows? I mean, who knows the reason why they don't reciprocate. But I think for me, I like to give too, but I sleep so much better at night not worrying about whether I'm going to get something back. I always say, like, I would never loan any of my friends any money. I think it gets messy, and then you have these expectations of them paying you back. You have this resentment. So it's either you don't give them anything or you give it away for free as a gift. And it feels good that way. You don't have the resentment at that point, and it ends up being something that, like, you just can feel good about. And then you hopefully you learn from the experiences where you don't get something back. It's like, all right, well, I'm glad I didn't have that expectation, and now I at least know where to invest my time and money and my energy.
The gift is unconditional, right? There's no condition.
Right.
With
It should be.
I think it should be, but oftentimes a lot of people give with expectation, right?
Sure.
And I think the important thing to remember for, like, the four of us sitting here and having this conversation, when you're passionate about something, you want to share that passion with people, right? And Matt, to your point, you're saying, each of us in our respective expertise and fields, we like to go the extra mile and we give more. But we give because we care so deeply about the thing that we're into. And like Brandon, to your point, peanut butter, first of all, food is universal, right? Which is awesome. So everyone can be connected through it and share it. Everyone sits down and has a meal, whether it's one meal a day or it's multiple meals a day. But what's great about your story is that you found something you were so passionate about and you were able to go forth and then share that gift with the rest of the world. And I think it's really important for all of us to remember, and for anyone listening to this, that when it comes to the thing that you love, you may give and give and give even a little extra sometimes. We can't always expect that on the other side the person is going to reciprocate or do the same thing. But we have to keep going because it's the thing that we love. And we're doing it, not that it's so selfish, but we're doing it to just make sure that we give as much as we feel we need to, that makes us feel good.
Yep.
Right. So, just trying to, I totally empathize with where you're coming from. And I think all of us have been in those positions where we feel like we give and it's not reciprocated, or you give all this content away, or you're doing all this stuff, and then no one's really throwing down, but all they want you to is they just want the handout. But it can't be the thing, obviously, that ever stops us from just being ourselves, which I think all of us are givers.
Yeah. I mean, I always live by the premise, and I always tell people this, because it started off early in life, and then through fitness, with all the opportunities I had, shooting magazine covers or sponsorships, people always wanted something. And I've always told people that I always try to create more value than I ever take back. And the reason for that isn't because I want to hit them up later and you owe me or whatever. A lot of times it's a networking connection that when it comes to the point where often 95% of the time, I'm going to utilize them for somebody else. And I'm not going to feel bad for asking. I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Photographer guy, hey, I got this really good friend. Could you do X, Y, and Z for them? And I'm not going to feel bad, right? Well, then the person I just did something for, I'm not going to feel bad asking them to do X, Y, or Z for this other person. And so that's, I guess, how I network, is I try to create more value for other people.
Yep.
And then if something is really needed for me, I definitely don't feel bad asking. You know what I mean?
Right.
But even when I'm asking, I'm still trying to create value out of asking them for something, if that makes sense. So
I love that. Yeah. It's so true. Like, you should pass on the good relationships you have to other people that are good to you at the same time. Because the reason you're going to do something anyway for that friend is because they're good for you. You're not going to go out on a limb or waste that favor on somebody just, willy-nilly. You're going to go out and take advantage of that favor for somebody who you care about or who's been good to you and who's deserving of that extra gift, so to speak. Yep. And that's really what it is all about. And I learned from my dad, who for the good and bad of the things that he has about him, or things that he's done or hasn't done in his life. The one thing that I'll always take away is, like, he will give the shirt off his back to anybody who he cares about at any time. If you need something at 4 a.m, he's going to be there, no questions asked. And he has been for me, for different things. And it's like that's something that you, or at least for me, like, I take pride in hopefully being able to offer that to the people that I care about too, because it's not about getting something back from them. It's about how good it feels to be able to stand by that offer and knowing that you will show up for somebody so they don't have to worry about whatever it is they're worrying about, because you're going to support them. That's just I don't know, just a good thing. And this conversation has had me thinking about that kind of stuff, giving. And I love the idea of what you just described of, like, you network for other people, not just for yourself. That is such a huge thing that I hope the listeners are paying attention to. Help other people, do what you can to make other people feel good. And if you have an opportunity to take advantage of something, do it, because in the future you can pass that on to somebody else. That is massive.
I like the way you said that, network for other people. That's actually a great line. And speaking of giving, people have made it all the way through this. I'm going to let you pick 3 of your viewers or followers randomly, give me their addresses, and we'll send them out a pack. So
okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Everyone should keep building those bridges, because, of course, you take that and you can just give it to someone else when you know that they need it.
That's huge.
That's like the best gift of networking.
Yeah. Well, so Jordan, we can either think about people that you've already had on puff pastries or in other conversations, but we'll Jordan and Justin will talk about who that might be best suited for to send those out.
Well, here's what I want to do, because there might be and there will be many people listening to this right now, and this is their first time experiencing chocolate croissants as a podcast, but also as a community. There's a community with just about 2,000 people in a private Facebook group. So if you're listening and you're not part of the group, we warmly welcome you to join us, facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. And that's where we'll figure out who gets access to this peanut butter.
And not only can you get peanut butter there, but you're going to get a whole ton of other value. And we're just kind of talking about what we just talked about. It's cool, man. For anybody listening who isn't aware of this Facebook group or who hasn't joined, there's constant inspiration. Justin's been running like a monthly. You should talk about what you've been doing. Actually, I think it's something to mention because it's true engagement that people feel good about.
I'll give you the brief one. So we had the idea of doing an August fitness challenge, and I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. I wanted to make it very digestible for everybody. So you do a 10-minute walk after each meal that you have. So if you have 3 meals in a day, it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes in the day. It just gets you started somewhere. So now you have a movement practice, and everybody should have a movement practice. We know that. So that was kind of just the catalyst to get people going. And the group stayed really consistent the whole month, which was awesome. We all posted videos on our walks. We tagged a few people like Jordan, like Joe, some other community members. We had them pick a question of something that we could answer on our walk, something to think about. And it's been great. And September just started. I'm going with, we're all going to be light workers, and we're going to do something good for someone. We're going to think about doing something good for someone every single day. And then the next day you'll talk about what that thing was in a short video. And of course, duration doesn't matter, but share with us the good thing that you did to try to put some goodness back into the world every single day. Everybody should be, doing their part. So please come join us. It's going to be great.
Falls in line nicely with this episode. So I think, Brandon, just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll fall right into that mix for September and beyond as well.
I can do that.
Yeah, awesome. So Jordan, with respect to time, I'll let you take us out.
Yes, good stuff. Yo, Brandon, what a great guy. Thanks so much for giving us your time the past hour. I love that the spirit of this conversation was generosity. I think that does not get enough attention. And quite frankly, thank you for leading us that way today, Brandon.
Of course. I appreciate it, guys. It's been great chatting with you and sharing a bit of my message, but also hearing from you all too.
Good stuff. So if you want to connect with Brandon and his peanut butter products further, all the links will be in the show notes. Hey, if you're listening to this on your podcast app of choice, you can be looking at the faces of us four right now. YouTube.com/chocolate croissants, or simply search Chocolate Croissants Podcast in your YouTube app. This is it. We got another episode next week. Again, Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. Join us there. We engage every single day. Instagram too, @chocolatepod. We shortened the handle. Hey, @chocolatepod. Matt mentioned Puff Pastry. I go live sometimes every week, sometimes every other week with one of you, someone in the Chocolate Croissants community. It's been a fun exercise in live community building. This is it, guys. Once again, please be kind to yourself. We appreciate your attention. I have not hit the cowbell once this episode, so I'm going to hit it once, and then I'm going to throw the mallet across the room, and then I'm going to say bye-bye.